Here we go. Marriage woes, part 4. Let's get to it. Now, if you've been following the marriage woes saga, you realize we just talk about things that happen within marriages that people mostly don't know about. And they ended up being a smash hit. Yeah, I'm sorry, but Rundy, I heard about your game, man. It kept cutting off on you and Bear. Now, let's get into this situation right here. Well, I told you, everybody's pulling that let's get our team a championship that we want to because of the popularity of the teams, and just try to get their most popular team a championship to try to, keep everything afloat and get as much money as they can because of the pandemic. So now, let's get to the marriage woes. So, a couple from Vermont. They're heavy into politics. Both are Democratic candidates, and they are very opinionated. One used to run for, she worked the campaign trail for, not Bill Clinton, Al Gore. She worked the Al Gore campaign trail, did a lot of work trying to recruit voters for Al Gore before she started moving up into the political world. Tried to run for an office in her town in Vermont. She didn't win. But her thing is she was mostly in, like the husband, they were pro-life. So that was a very big thing for them. They had the t-shirts, pro-life. They have 2 daughters, and they were all pro-life. On the cheerleader thing, they did the march, pro-life. And now in 2020, the wife is having an epiphany that she believes, after talking to her women's group that she was doing, because she's trying to run for a campaign, the numbers would be more in her favor. A woman's choice is a woman's body. So she goes from pro-life choice to pro-choice. A woman's body is her own right to choose. So they go down that road. So now the husband and her now have conflict because this issue is stirring up, arguments, because now she's flipping the script. And now they're having, basically debates. Their arguments are like debates. You got the floor. Thank you. Now, this is what's wrong, and you were once said, and I have it right here in the quote, she said back in 2008, she would never, ever support pro-choice. What do you say about that? That was before I was enlightened. I didn't have enough information, but I am a woman, and a woman should have the right to choose. There are certain situations. What if it was not consensual? And then she gets pregnant. Then what? A woman should have her right to choose in those situations, and we're taking that away with pro-life. And I just think that we got to give the choice. So they're going back, and while they're going back and forth and they're arguing and they're going back, it's getting worse and worse. So the daughters are failing in school, and the husband is blaming the wife for neglecting the daughters to worry about the campaign and the raising them, and that's why the daughters are doing this. So the wife's like, screw this, we're getting a divorce. You're trying to turn our daughters against me. I don't know who you are anymore. So she wants a divorce, but he wants the judge to make her pay because she's the one that caused the friction by changing her stance on abortion, basically, being pro-choice. Crazy. Now, all the assets they got, the judge said, look, what do you want to do here, sir? What do you just want the divorce? He's like, I want a divorce, and I don't want her to have to pay me anything. So, naturally, the judge said it's not going to be realistic. You got kids. He's like, I'll take care of the kids, but I want full custody. So I don't want her poisoning our daughters with this pro-choice idea. So now, the kids are going to be put in special care out of both of the parents' lives. They're staying with a relative who has no political connections whatsoever till they sort out how they're going to work out with the kids. So they was like, well, let's try to work on getting the divorce final, and then we can move on to everything else. That was a headache. Because you just can't move on from the divorce. The pro-life, pro-choice was all in the same bucket. Now, here come the friends. They're each telling the side of their story. Now, her friends that she has looks at him as he's inconsiderate. You know, most people didn't really like him or didn't really see him as much as they saw her. You know, because she was running for the town office and everything else, so they see her more than him. Now, here's the major problem. He moves out. He moves out of the house for a little bit, then he moves back in once the wife was out. Like, she was getting ready to move. So, when the divorce and everything was final, she started dating somebody who was working at they had this little complex or whatever. So they're still working out custody of the children. Custody of the children still had to get worked out after they split the properties and had to sell some pieces, and they lost a ton of money. The divorce had cost them about at least $70,000 to $80,000 in properties. Another $100,000 in lawyer fees and everything. It's costing them so heavy. Then she ends up dating somebody that used to work on a campaign trail. So they're dating. So now this affects the whole child custody thing as far as visitation rights, splitting holidays, all of this nonsense. All of this nonsense. So what else comes on top of it? Yep. Boom. She starts dating another guy. And, he's in the house. And he's like, this is my house. My wife abandoned the marriage. I got a divorce because of her. And mom's moved on. They both split custody. One time they're at the dad's house. They do that. They still go to the same school. The kids wanted to go to the same school, which was no problem. Let them all go to the same school. They work all of this out. And once this hits, she starts running against somebody. She needs to save face. She needs to have somebody there that's riding with her. And the person that was riding for her was her friend. Outside friends are getting involved. So now the neighbors who knew all of them, now they see the dad doing all this stuff by himself. When they have the town, all the festival stuff that they used to contribute to, they don't even invite him, the father. The dad don't get invited. The town, even though she's brainwashed everybody in the neighborhood. Because, like I said, because he works and she works. But when they see him now, he don't get invited over. He be like, hey, what's up, Tom? Can I come? Hey, I ain't seen you in a while. You want to go back? He's I'll check with Jen and see what she wants to do. Because see, the men are controlled by their wives, and the wives make a decision on who they're gonna side with in a divorce. You see? So all the stuff that went on, and they got the divorce and everything else, the neighbors chose sides. The neighbors heard both sides of the story, and the neighbor chose their side. And they decided, we're friends with her and not him. Even though this guy, he was mad. He was like, man, I spent all that money on that food. They didn't even chip in, and I had barbecues out here. I did all the cooking, and I did all of these things here. Now they act like, well, we don't know him enough like we know her. He's like, BS, you came and used our cabin house, our property that we had when you wanted to go up there with your wife. I was up there and said, hey, this is how it works. I drove all the way up there for them so they could use our rental property that we got. It's their property, but they wanted to rent it. And he was like, man, you can just use it. It's our property. It's our vacation home, out in the woods. Let them use it. So he was pretty ticked off and felt pretty disrespected. That she managed to tell her side of the story to them, and they just sided with her automatically. And just, and that's why he put the house up for sale. He's like, I'm going to just move and get brand new neighbors. But he's like, my daughters, they love it here. They want to still stay in the school district. And he's like, their mom don't live that far away. She's still in the school district too. So they can go to the same school. They can stay at my house, her house. And he's like, and once they out of high school, that's it. I really, they can do what they want to do at the point. So the kids, they kind of blame mom for splitting up the family and the new boyfriend. But nothing comes as the disrespect the neighbors showed to them because wife or she poisoned their minds. Then when they invited the ex-wife and her new boyfriend, somebody that she was working with on her little campaign. Well, I thought Casey went to bed. Yeah, they treated the man like a straight dog. All he was is that, and this is what brings the question, could you be with somebody who don't share your same beliefs? Yeah, the trust was done. Everything was damaged. It was just over at that point. Completely over. Oh man, that's sad because I'm like, I don't like that. If you were cool with the neighbors before they got married, why are you not cool with them now? I mean, he's part of it. If you were part of the family and you were cool with the family back then, you should be cool with the family now. There's no reason for the family to not be cool with you. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you treated them with respect and held them in high regards, and you came to their house, ate barbecue, I mean, it's a joint thing. So just because she ain't there no more, like they got a divorce, now you want to blame him? She was pro-choice. I mean, and she switched, but the thing is, they all were pro-choice. I mean, pro-life. She switched to pro-choice. And they start having conflicts because she was starting to change her affiliation. And it was starting to break up the balancing home. She calling it enlightenment. But my thing is, those same arguments were made back then when you were pro-life all those years. So he ended up moving away and got whole new neighbors. He got up out of there. I was watching some the other day, and they were talking about the divorce rate now, and how now this year most people are, the marriages are up and the divorces are not down. I was like, there's a COVID. Everybody had to go into cuffing season early. Dudes are getting married and staying married, and I'm like, wow, what did they base that on? I mean, did they expect people to get married, divorced in like 6-7 months? No, people try to marry. If you go through the process of marrying somebody, you're going to try to make it work first, because you don't want this to fail. Why would you, if you went this far to get married? Most blacks, they have like what you would call the backyard wedding. You don't have any money, you doing backyard weddings. Or you getting married, some of them, they get married at the local church. It's going to be a small local church. And then everything, the reception, everything going to be in somebody's backyard. So that's what you do when you ain't got the money. And your family ain't got the money. Oh, we got a family member that left his wife at the altar. Dated her for like 20 years almost. They've been together like 20 years. The wedding dress is probably still in my auntie's closet. That's how bad it was. It's probably still in that closet. I mean, he left on the wedding day. He's married now to another woman. It was like, man, is he going to go through it this time? He did it like 2 times. The 3rd time was the charm. He actually went through and got married. So, but he didn't marry the girl he been with forever. And she's still like family because she been around for so long. She knew everybody. So it was like, I'm like, that's messed up. Because now, she gonna be around with the new wife and everything else, and they're gonna be like, oh, who is that? Because she been around for like over 10 years. Everybody knows it's like auntie. Maybe like calling her auntie and stuff, and she's really, I don't know what could have happened. They had so many breakups and fights and all kind of craziness. But those two, he just wouldn't marry her. And then he finally decided they was finna get married and everything. She had the dress. Everybody got dressed up, went to the thing, man. And he was like, man, I ain't doing this. Seriously. So that's a whole nother story that we don't want to go into. So I don't want to go off track. Let's stay on this one. So anyway, the guy moved out and everything, sold the house. So the wife told him, don't sell the place yet, because I might want to move back there because all her friends are there. That's who she collaborate with. That's who she smiles and kicks it with. So after everything was said and done, The wife went and made some changes. He said, go to hell, and sold the house, went and got something else. The kids was in school. He went and got new neighbors. So now he's dating somebody. Now the daughters are all mad at him because he went and got a girlfriend. I don't like this, Mom. Why can't y'all get back together? I'm like, y'all didn't say nothing when Mom was dating her boyfriend all these years. Y'all didn't really like it, and y'all was thinking like Mom's just going through a phase. Y'all gonna get somebody back. But soon as Dad date one time, the daughters have a fit. They get super protective. So it was like they say, the sons catered more to and protect the mom, and the dads and the daughters, and that thing is true. They were so protective over their head. He's like, man, my girl and everything else, they are attached to the father. They don't want the dad dating anything. He tried to sit down and talk to them and talk to the date. She's nice and she's extra nice to the girls and everything, and they just mean to her. So, yep. So that's it. That is marriage woes. Right now, they still co-parent up in Vermont. So the moral of this story is, if a woman starts changing herself as far as and you don't change with her, eventually it will implode. Some people can survive it, others cannot. All right, prime time.